prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value.
But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
Yeah, it is. This is Sales Logic. It is Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Super excited to be with you today. It is time to talk about sales. Hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. He is in Seattle, Washington today. So, Mark, it is early there.
It is 5 a.m. here, but it's okay. It's Sales Logic. And the topic today, high quota. Ooh, high quota. Slow market. What are the new rules of selling? We got a great book we're going to talk about. We got a lightning round. So let's dive into it, because I'll tell you what, more than ever, studies, everything shows salespeople are missing quota, and markets are getting tough out there. And those high quotas, what are the new rules of selling? How do we make it? How do we make it happen?
You know, it's so interesting right now. I swear, Mark, I don't know about you, but I feel like everybody I've been talking to is saying the same thing. Things are slow. Even if there's activity in there, things don't seem to get to decision. Things are tight, things are slow. And I think it's a really important topic for today's marketplace, because, you know, this kind of separates the successful sellers from those who don't make it in the sales arena, whether you can navigate a market like this. And that's where I'm going to begin, is to, number one, understand this is part of the process. This is normal. You have times when the market is running hot, it is running fast, and people are looking to spend money and looking to make deals. Then you move into markets like this, and it is part of the process. So to understand, it isn't you, it's a normal part of the process.
And the key is to keep going. Don't sit there and back off. Here's what I found in difficult markets like this. So many salespeople back off. So many companies back off. They have vacancies occur and they don't fill them, and they just broaden the territories. They take the quota that person had, give it to everybody else, and it makes stuff. But here's the whole thing: keep going, because this is where you personally are able to develop deeper relationships than you've ever had before. Why? Because just as you're going through difficult times, everyone else is too. I've always found tough times is when you can grab market share and you really do create loyalty. Here's the whole thing though. You've got to be bringing value. You've got to be bringing something of interest to customers. If all you're doing is saying buy, that's not what, because again, they're facing the same thing with their customers. You've got to help them find a solution.
Yeah, I'm also going to add here too that it is really time to tap into this idea of being a partner in sales. Is that this is the time when you need to realize that you're now need to be a member of their team. Let me give you an example. My husband and I were talking about this the other day, and we were talking about 2008 and how challenging 2008 was for him in his dental practice. And what he was saying was his common line with everybody was, we're in this together. And so people would need lots of dental work. They couldn't afford lots of dental work. He was finding ways to work with them to take this risk of spending a lot of money off the table, right? So it wasn't in his benefit. I mean, technically it was, because the practice stayed open and did well. But my point was, he wasn't just going after his goal. It was a partner goal. How can we make this work? And I think you need to look at your deals. Like, I had a client call me the other day and they just said, given the way that expenses are up, we can't do that in the budget. Could you do it for this? And I said, yeah, we can make that work. And I used my husband's exact line. We're in this together. These are challenging times. We'll come out of it. Look at it, relook at it then.
Well, see, then what you're doing is you're saying, let's
Mark,
create that relationship. Oh, you can't hear me.
You sound like you're saying something very, very prolific.
Well, I'm always saying something very prolific.
Jerry Brock is chiming in. It is a normal part of the process. We have to keep going we have to keep doing what gets results. even more when it's tougher. Thank you for the reminder and the encouragement. But, Terry, you made such a great point. We have to keep doing what gets results. So I think that's important too, to look in. Don't just keep doing to do. You got to look at what's getting results.
Hopefully my audio is
You,
much
Mark.
better. Okay.
Yep.
I am
Not sure
okay.
not sure what is going on there, but you will definitely master it. So I think another point that we need to make, and something else you really need to look at, is you need to try to figure out how can you take risk off the table. I mean, they're not rejecting you. What they're rejecting is this urgent? Do I need to do it right now? What if I make a wrong decision and I blow, $500,000 that we don't have in the budget, to blow? So you've got to figure out ways to really take risk off the table. So think about this. I want you to go back to your pipelines today, really look at your pipelines and ask yourself, what deals are moving? What deals aren't moving? And those deals that are not moving, what do you need to go back in? And what do you need to adjust to become a partner, to take risk off the table? Because Mark, Gina said she can hear Mark, so it's just on my end. All right, good. Thanks, Gina, for time.
The audio.
Try to figure out what's going on my end.
Well, that's okay. I think my audio is coming through okay. So here's the situation. It's about relationships. When you are going into a more difficult deal like this right now, you've got to ask yourself, how do I create more relationships out there? Because again, you're playing for the long game.
You're hearing us both really clearly. I wonder why you went out on me.
This is what your husband was doing in your practice. This is what we all have to do. How do we create as many deep relationships?
Well, this is going to be interesting. We got to do this show, Mark, why I can't hear you.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I think Gina, continue to jump in if you can hear me right now, because I'm going to share with you 3 things that I think we all have to be doing in a more difficult time. 1, ask yourself, how do I create more relationships with every person in the organization? 2, how do I look deeper at their customers? And 3, how do I bring alternate solutions to them that make it easier for them to do business with me? That's the 3 things that I've got to do. Hopefully somebody is jumping in here saying that they can hear the audio okay. And
Mark, what I think is I'm going to let you go here a second. I'm going to pop out of this podcast. I'm going to come back in on my other computer and see if that works.
Everybody's hearing you very, very clearly too, Mayor. So it's okay. It's right. Go ahead and jump out, come back in. Let's dive into this issue here for a second here. And what we're talking about is, how do we develop more relationships? I want to ask you this question. For every piece of business that you get from a customer, how can you open up one more relationship? In other words, who is somebody else in that organization's supply chain that you can talk to? Who else in that company's supply chain can you connect them to? Who can you connect to them? In other words, you are playing the absolute long game. Now, let's look at their customers. Okay, who are they selling to? Now, remember, just as your challenge selling to them, their challenge selling to their customers. So what you want to do is you want to say, hey, how can I create more value to make it easier for my customers to sell to their customers? Go further downstream. And if I can go further downstream to helping them, guess what? It's going to allow them to do sales. I was with an organization this week working with some of the salespeople. And what we were doing was we were saying, hey, let's look at their customers. How do we help them? What are some items we need to change? What are some items? And again, what you're doing there. 3rd thing, keep it absolutely simple. Simple. Make it easy for the customer to do business with you. What does this mean? This means you may need to change credit terms. This means you may need to change, it instead of net 10, maybe it's net 20, maybe it's net 30. Now, I know cash flow is king, but here's the deal. Do you want the deal or do you not want the deal? So you have to be flexible. I think Mayor is back in with us. So Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. I was hearing you great, and then all of a sudden it just went out. So I can hear you. I can hear great. And Mark, I think what you were alluding to, I missed a lot of it, but don't be afraid to sell small right now. Is there an entry point that you could get in, that you could at least get some of the business? And, and could you go in with a smaller offer, something that could make it easier for them to say yes to you?
That is so key. So what this means is you may need to refigure. Now, okay, now I get this because the title of this was, challenging times, and you got, high quota. How do I make the high quota selling small things? Here's the whole thing. Would you rather only achieve 30% of your quota, or would you rather achieve 60% of your quota? Well, it's 60%. So maybe selling the small deals isn't going to get you to 100%, but you know what? You're going to miss it anyway. So accept the fact. This is a conversation that you've got to be having with your boss. Now, let's back up the bus here. Why do high quotas exist? Chances are because it's the private equity firm that owns the company. It's the ownership. It's the stock expectations. It's whatever it might be that is forcing numbers down. Well, guess what? You can't change that. You as a salesperson cannot change that. Accept the fact. And don't think for a moment, oh, I need to go to a different company. No, every company is facing that challenge. I don't know if why don't you add a comment to that, Mayor? And then I want to get to the question, because we've got a great question from Nikki in Finland.
Oh, just jump right into the question.
Nick, wow, the question comes from Nikki in Finland. She says, this marketplace is killing us. It's what we've been talking about. So much uncertainty is causing us to raise prices, which has been okay since our competitors need it too. I want to talk about raising prices. But now if the Strait of Hormuz does not open, we will get hit with supply chain issues. Not sure how that's going to hit my goals if that happens. How do we make your goals when all the odds are stacked against you? What are your thoughts, Baron?
Well, I think it's a really good question, and I think it's a pertinent question to discuss today. Number one, I'm going to say get ahead of it. You need to be. I'm going to go back to this idea of you need to be partnering with your clients right now. So do not be a salesperson that doesn't talk about the reality. So if I were going to call on Mark, and I'm worried about the Strait not opening, I'm worried about staying open, I'm worried about supply chain issues, Mark and I are going to talk about it. We're going to use our greatest advantage, which is time. What can we do now to get ready for what could possibly happen? And I'm going to help guide them through, which is going to help guide me through.
And I love it. And Bryn comes in with a great comment. Get introduced to their other vendors as well. Networking is back. Networking is back and more important than ever. So true. This is what we've been talking all along. You got to create relationships. Let's dive into the element of the question where she was talking about price. In a price advancing marketplace, this is when you, the salesperson, have the ability to demonstrate an incredible amount of credibility. And you're doing two things. One, you are letting your customers know that price advances are probably going to be occurring. Because guess what? They're undoubtedly facing the same thing with their customer. So you've got to be ready. Two, you've got to be providing them with as many options and strategies as to how to navigate through it. And be right up front with it, because you can sit there and say, hey, we are having to take a price advance. And the reason we are, because if we don't, we won't be able to provide you with the same quality we've been able to provide you in the past. That's key. Make sure you stress to the customer that the price increase is going to allow you to maintain the same level of quality, because you can't afford to have from us lower quality product or service. But two, you want to give them options in terms of how they can navigate the price increase. It might be a little bit of an extended term. It might be a forward buy. It might be changing of the payment terms, but put options out. That means you got to have an internal conversation first with your finance team, with your CFO, et cetera. Sales managers, this is where you got to come to the table, but you got to be having these conversations now. Don't sit there and wait for the price increase to come across in an invoice after they've already ordered. That is the biggest mistake you can do.
Yeah, I love what Lucky is saying here, because it goes really well with what Mark said. He said, as long as you communicate to your client the significance of the outcome, the client will not think about money. I really want to break that down, because Lucky is making such a great point here, because I think if you want to hit your quota in a really challenging marketplace, you better go back to your value proposition. Because right now, if it is not giving me the ability to generate more revenue, and that could be that what you're selling is saving me time, it is saving me money, it is making my life easier, all of which allows me to generate more revenue. At the end of the day, why would I spend the money? And that is what customers are asking themselves right now. Why would I spend the money? It goes really well with a comment that Bryn just made. She said, for the first time, I have a large client on a monthly payment plan. She is using her monthly credit card budget. She couldn't get any more money. I mean, things are just tight right now. So imagine this. Somebody is working with Bryn and is willing to pull out a credit card because that is where they believe there is value there, and they are going to get that back in some way. So it's important to really be thinking through to yourself, like, this isn't about you and your quota. It is about you re-looking at your sales process and going, okay, why would people part with money right now? Why would they give it to me? Like, what difference is it going to make for them? And then be really able to articulate that clearly and quickly.
And there's something significant about that credit card, because there's a credit card fee that's going to be paid. Don't sit there and say, oh, well, we've got to increase prices by another 2% or 2.3% to offset the credit card fee. No, let it go. Here's the whole thing. Remember, the customer is paying on a credit card, and so they're incurring a fee. So shoulder the burden with them. It's okay. I would rather pay a credit card fee than lose the deal completely. And these are some of those little bit of a flexible model you got to go through. I want to come back to this price increase because, again, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this. You've got to be prepared that when you take that price advance, make sure that you take the full price advance. You're going to be much better served if you take one price advance at a little higher percent than a couple of small ones. Because if every week you come back to your customer and you say there's another price increase, that's going to get very irritating. Take one. Think through the strategy. Think through what your cost of goods are. But here's the whole thing. When you communicate that, and lucky you were getting to it right on, spot on, total cost of ownership. You got to understand total cost of ownership, because the quality is the reason customers are buying from you. Because why? It fits into their total. What you sell may help them reduce labor. What you sell may help them satisfy their customers better. What you sell may help them ship faster. What they sell may help them do whatever it is better. But it's absolutely key that you understand the outcome that you create. That is what you are selling. It's not the price.
Yeah. I also think you need to take the pressure off. You need to take the pressure off yourself, and you need to take the pressure off your customer. In essence, I don't know about you, Mark, but I have really pretty much doubled the amount of sales calls I'm making right now. I mean, one of the things about not closing a lot of deals is that you have more time to make more sales calls. And I think it's, when Mark said, would you rather make 30% of your quota or 60% of your quota? Remember the idea that a quota is an annual number, right? And so all the work I'm doing right now, like, this will not last forever. 2008 didn't last forever. 2001 didn't last forever. I mean, we come in and out of these, but it is the amount of work you do when you have the time. So you should be going, all right, I can't control, I may only hit 60% of my quota for the month of April, but I could hit 120% of my quota in the month of September if I increase the amount of work I'm doing right now, whether the economy turns around or not.
I love that. And I love Andy Greenberg's comment, don't call it a price increase, call it a price adjustment. So true, so spot on, because again, it is an adjustment in price. I want to come back to Mary, your comment regarding quota. Salespeople, this is when you establish a new quota, it's new relationships. Establish a quota of new relationships. Because again, you got to play the long game. Difficult times do not last. They do not last. And what you want to do now is plant the seeds that are going to yield a harvest later on. So in other words, you're saying, hey, how do I create more contacts at this account? How do I get, this account not going to buy from me right now, but I'm still going to establish a relationship. The key thing is you have to stay in the game. Don't back off. And if that means you're playing mental games with yourself in terms of creating these other types of goals, relationships, number of calls you're making, whatever it might be, that's okay. But don't back off because your competitor is backing off. And this is the time when you grab market share.
All right, Mark, what's the book? What's the book we're covering today?
The book is absolutely so fitting. It's by Ryan Holiday. The Obstacle is the Way. Hey, the 10th edition has just come out, so grab it. I mean, I love it.
Such a good book. The Obstacle is the Way. And then, and when Mark said, don't give up, don't pull out, I think you need to lean in harder. I think you need to realize when the economy goes, when it feels like you aren't going to make quota, like get the focus off yourself, get the focus on how you can help the customer because everybody's going through it. And what can I do to get out there and add more value, make a bigger difference?
Oh, without a doubt. Hey, we got a great audience that is chiming in. We don't have a chance to get everybody's comments up on the screen, but very much appreciated. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I am.
Lightning round, top 10 ways to know it's time to give up on a prospect. Ooh, this is scratch your head time. Go.
It is scratch your head time. I just gave up on a prospect. I just took him out of my CRM this morning, and basically they never follow through on what they say they're going to do. He'll say he'll get back to me and set up a meeting. Let me check on this and I'll get back to you. But the follow-up has always been mine with no response from him.
I'm going to add to that. You got to be looking for where is the intent versus just the interest. If all they're showing is interest, no intent, you got to let them go.
Yeah, I would say that you don't have any access to the true decision maker. Everything is going through this person, and you've never ever had access to the person who can pull the trigger.
Number 4, if they have never given you the rationale, the process, how they make a decision, if they've never shared with you what they're going to go through to make that decision, you got to give up on them.
Yeah, I think you need to give up on them if they keep leaning into you for information and advice and ideas, but they never ever hire you. This happened to me during COVID. I had somebody who said, could you work with us? And I did, and they did it again and they did it again. And then when it came time for their conference, I had to bring up that I would like to speak at that and actually get paid. And I just ended up firing them. I mean, it was never going to go anywhere.
Number 6, are they sharing with you proprietary information? Are they, if they haven't shared with you something that is of confidential information to them, confidential insight, something, they're not really interested in hiring you because there's no trust, there's no confidence.
Yeah, I would say they don't have it. It's time to give up when they don't really have a real problem. I mean, when they don't see it as an issue. I was dealing with a company in LA, and when I said I help you, around your competition, they're like, we don't really have any competition. I'm like, that's not, everybody does. Like you got your head in the sand. This isn't a good match.
Number 8, when there has been zero interest in really allowing you to understand their business. In other words, they're not sharing with you what is the outcome. What's the outcome that they're looking for? If you don't understand that, it's time to part ways.
Yeah, and I'm going to say number 9, you go for a hike, you go for a bike ride, and you really listen to your gut, and your gut says, it's just time. I don't want to do this anymore. Let it go.
Number 10, if all they're looking for is a price, that's the only thing they ever want to have is the price. You know what they're doing? They are just taking your price and shopping it against the competition, and it is not going to go anywhere. So, hey, Mayor, we should tease the audience a little bit because we've got a new process, new kind of a network community that we're creating, right? You got some insights you want to share?
Yeah, you'll learn about it more in May. We're putting kind of the final details and results. Mark, I've already had quite a few people reach out to me wanting to get involved. But I think the biggest thing you need to know and understand about this this community is the fact that you are not going to be, if you are a member, you are not going to be like our guest today who asked the question. You're not going to be missing your sales quota because we're going to focus on accountability, building relationship, finding you even new job opportunities, lots of good things happening inside this network.
Great. So look for that in the coming weeks. With that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We'll see you right back here next week for another episode of Sales Logic. Until then, I hope you close a lot of deals this week. And remember, if you have questions, you want to be featured here on Sales Logic, we are happy. Just reach out, send a question to Mark, send one to me, and you will be the featured guest here on Sales Logic. We'll see you next week.